All right, good evening, everyone. This begins the pre-meeting for the November 19th, 2020 Zoning Board of Appeals hearing. The pre-meeting is a time where board members can ask questions of staff. There is no participation by members of the public or by applicants. We will get started with reviewing the cases in just a moment. There is a change to the agenda. Item number 1 was a rehearing request for a property at 197 Driving Park Avenue. Applicant went before the October 2020 Zoning Board of Appeals hearing. Request was denied. The request was to reestablish the use of a property as a 4-family that had lost its rights as a result of an extended period of vacancy. The board members have been provided with 2 things: all of the additional information that was submitted by the applicant, as well as the 4 criteria, one of which needs to be met in order for a rehearing request to be approved. So just to reiterate here, this rehearing request is not to approve or deny a new application. It is simply the applicant's attempt to try to prove that one of the 4 criteria within 120-188-0 have been met. The board has to vote unanimously in order for a rehearing to be granted. If that occurs tonight, what would happen then is the applicant would be responsible for putting together an entirely new application to hear it. Otherwise, the applicant cannot go before the board seeking the same relief within a 2-year period. So this evening, the board members have been provided all of the information submitted by the applicant. They've had a chance to review it, as well as determining if one of the 4 criteria have been met. So at this time, I will turn it over to the board for discussion and then a vote on that, and then we'll get started with going over the cases.
I saw there was quite a bit of some financial updates that I think a lot of folks on the call, a lot of folks at the last meeting had requested. I didn't have any additional questions or comments, and I thought that it was a significant amount for a rehearing. I don't know if everybody else felt that way.
Well, I certainly did. My problem with the case when it was proposed was it's either going to be a single or a 4-unit. Nothing was in there for a 2-unit or a 3-unit or anything else. This is a property that I hate to see be vacant for 15 more years.
Yeah.
I needed more information to make a decision, and I'm hoping it's in this package.
Did anybody else disagree? So I just wanted to move. Anybody else disagreed in regards to the information that was provided, or is everybody, in agreement that it's enough for a rehearing?
I thought it was enough.
Okay, so
I agree.
Anybody else have any objection to that?
No.
Okay, so if someone wants to make a motion in second, and again, this would be to allow the applicant to proceed with a rehearing. And before we do that, I'm hoping the board members can share, and I know some information has already been said, any additional information you might want to see. And I know one board member has requested exploring the option of something somewhere in between a single and a 4-family. Is there anything else that would be beneficial to you all?
There was a lot of information in that package, Matt. Different rental prices throughout the entire city, but I'm able to filter out which are right in the actual area rather than what was provided. I don't remember how many were in there, but there was an awful lot. It looks like the applicant did some homework to come up with those, because we were questioning just how what the rental prices would actually be in that area.
Okay.
So I was glad to see that.
Matt, I'll make a motion to grant a request for a rehearing of this case.
I'll second it.
Okay, and we'll go down the line for polling. So Matt?
I'm in favor.
Okay, next is Jim?
Grant.
Tyrese?
Grant.
Maureen?
A grant.
Cora?
Grant.
Joe?
Grant.
Who am I missing?
Holly, Grant.
Grant, I'm sorry.
That's
You
okay.
moved out of my screen. Okay, so the motion to grant a rehearing request, Holly, I'm so sorry, carries. So the applicant for 197 Driving Park Avenue has been granted a rehearing request. And I will follow up with the applicant on putting together a new application to be heard at a later date. Thank you all. My apologies to Holly. Okay, next order of business, we can get down to the cases. Let's first go for case number one. So case number one, 1290 Lake Avenue. Let's first start with, are there any board members who did not visit the site? Okay, so all board members have visited the site. This is a case that first came back in May. The board had requested more information that was detailed in the hold letter as part of the staff report. So the additional information you have as a result of that. And then during the hearing, I will have Matt and Holly testify that they listened to the recording because they were not at the first one. Any questions on this one?
Just have a context question that wasn't clear from the video. So I know that at one point she said that they moved forward before they had zoning approval. And so I just wondered how they got into the process to actually follow the process they were supposed to follow to begin with. Just to sort of understand how it happened.
I believe it was generated from a complaint.
Okay.
So construction on the garage, construction started on the garage, at which point a resident in the area made a complaint to the code enforcement office that something was being done. It was determined that a permit had not been requested, which is how it ended up here before you now.
Thank you. I just wanted a little context.
Absolutely. There was one additional comment that you received following the staff report, and there is one member of the public who has signed up to provide oral testimony as well for that case. Case number, yes.
Oh, one last comment. If I recall in that case, I thought we had requested that a building inspector go out there and look at the building. Did that happen? Because remember, when I was out there, I observed that the pressure treated lumber that was supporting it was like resting on a curb, and I thought that was part of the. I'm not saying it was part of the conditions, but it was brought up in the last meeting.
I'd have to follow up on it. I don't have an answer to that.
Okay. Well, if
so
it comes to be, we can always have it as part of a condition tonight.
And it was what the structure was resting on?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I think last time we had Joe, the discussion was just before it came back, have somebody from building make sure that thing was actually built correctly in the first.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can always add that tonight. I was just curious if that had happened.
No. So what would happen though? Oh, go ahead, Johanna.
No, go ahead.
So what would happen, even if zoning approval is granted, a building inspector would have to go out. So they're going to have to provide plans showing how it was constructed. And if for some reason it does not meet the building code, they would have to make those modifications.
Okay.
So approving it definitely wouldn't supersede that, but I can definitely include that in any decision tonight.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention, I think we probably discussed this the last meeting, but that they are requesting a temporary variance. And our code doesn't have any provision for temporary variances, so you can't actually do that. However, you could put some language in the decision that that confirms that they will be removing it. That's what they're saying, within 5 to 7 years, and that they will remove the entire structure when they do that. So you might want to sort of make that a condition, that when they remove it, as they have stated in their application, that they remove the entire structure and restore the area.
So let's say they move out of the school 10 years from now, and someone else purchases the property. So would the variance be dead in essence? I mean, that's what I'm struggling with too in that piece, because I'm trying to figure out why we didn't. I guess they submitted and we didn't tell them, hey, there's no such thing, and we just let them submit what was in the application.
Well, how strongly do you feel about this? I mean, if you feel strongly that this thing should not stay there forever, and they're agreeing to it, even though we don't have temporary variance provisions in our code, if they've agreed that they will remove it, say no later than, they say 5 to 7 years, you could say the outset 7 years, you could make that a condition that they remove and fully restore the area within 7 years. And if that's what they've agreed to, they want that.
And then 7 years from now, they can come back and get another variance if they want to. That's what I'm
Honestly,
saying.
I don't know what to tell you exactly, because this is a little new territory. We don't really have any provision for this. So the worst case scenario is kind of hard for me to tell you what would happen in that case. But, have that discussion with them about what they really intend there. And if they're putting in an application that says that they're intending to remove it and restore the land underneath it in 7 years, make that a condition of your approval. If that's the only basis on which you would do it.
It's not, because I think in the last application, I think what was really motivating and made it supportive for me was the applicant articulated as if this was a project that it was going to be built every year, rebuilt every year for a class project. I didn't see that in the application. So I remember that vaguely, that was kind of what they said, we're going to rebuild, it's for teaching purposes, we're going to rebuild it. And I think we were even maybe, I don't know if I'm making this up, but we were thinking about, well, why didn't you decide to do it there? And it was a part of a class purpose, so that I didn't see that in the application tonight. So I'll ask the question, but that's what made the application more favorable. But okay.
Oh, no, I remember that.
Yeah,
I
I think
I remember that. Yeah.
The other thing though, so say the school, going with the scenario that the school moves out, the structure goes away. Johanna, you may want to weigh in on this, but there wouldn't be any rights necessarily, or there's no guaranteed rights back to that variance. If the school moves out, the structure goes away. Maybe something to explore, not necessarily. Okay.
Is it safe to say that under a certain size that they wouldn't necessarily need a zoning variance?
No, and the reason is this, even if you are under a certain size and you don't need a building permit subject to the building code, a certificate of zoning compliance is still required. So when you review the code, one of the things that the code states, and primarily it has to do with reasons like this for location purposes. So the building code may not weigh in because of the size, but the zoning code still does. So you may be subject to both codes, or you may just be subject to one. But that's a great question, because sheds, dependent on their size and accessory use, may not require building code.
we may need to address things like this in our new zoning code.
Yeah, it's good information, because we don't address temporary variances. Okay, case number 2 is 37 Wall Street. In terms of site visits, is there anyone that did not visit the site for 37 Wall Street? Okay, so all members have visited the site. Perfect. Any questions on this? There was one additional email that came in. It was in support of the application. Any questions on Wall Street? Okay. Case number 3, speaking of temporary variances, 460 Buffalo Road. Anybody not visit the site? Okay, all board members have visited the site for 460 Buffalo Road. Any questions on this property?
Yes, to me, it wasn't really clear what the, it's a pretty large site, and I wasn't really clear what the variance request was, where they were looking to put was it a turbine, wind turbine?
Yeah, so it is a large site. It's got a lot of uses on it. So there's a site plan included in the staff report. I'm going to get to the page here. Page looks like this. I don't know if you can see that. It's about halfway through, and what you're looking at on the bottom portion is Buffalo Road. So it says approximate location of wind turbine. So it would be on the far left side of the parcel. If you're facing the parcel from Buffalo Road. It's above an area that has parking in front of it.
And it is a test site, right?
I'm sorry?
It is a test site.
Yeah, so you can certainly talk to the applicant about that. They provide some
Okay.
information about the NYSERDA information and
Yeah.
whatnot, so.
Okay.
No public comment on that.
I had a question about the height of that, man.
Mhm.
I'm looking at the preliminary site plan findings here.
Mhm.
Where it says scope of the project, it says the wind turbine will be installed on a 20-foot pole on the roof of the building on the western, blah, 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 blah. The total height, including the pole and wind turbine, would be 26 feet.
Mhm.
But when I look at the attached sketch here, it shows that the building is 23 feet tall to begin with. And if you have a 10-foot diameter, they just don't jive for me.
Regarding the height.
Yeah,
Yeah, so talk to the applicant about that. They may detail some of this. This was the second site that they actually, if the applicant's on this call or listening, I think that's a good idea. This was the second site considered. The original site was not allowed, so they chose this one, but they can detail a little bit more about that. And you can certainly talk to them about the height of the building with regard, relative to the height of the structure.
thank you, Matt.
Anything else on Buffalo Road? Case number 4, additional public comment that came in was provided to you, came in last Friday after the staff report came in. It's a letter of support. To the board members who have been on a little while, this project is going to look very familiar to you. It came before you in a slightly different form. It was a totally separate application in the form of a 3-family unit on one parcel, but it was townhouse style development. What you're seeing tonight is actually townhouses, which means there's a property line in between them. So it's essentially the same project that was approved, but there were changes with regard to, I believe, lending that the applicant can talk about. Now there are property lines in between each unit.
So we did approve it, correct?
You did, yes. It was, yeah, Tyrese, it was, I think about a year ago, last August, maybe, a little over a year ago now.
I remember this one.
Yeah, so it's almost the same, but it's legally not the same. It's got property lines in between it now. All right. Next case number 5, 456 Oxford Street. Any questions on this? Oh, I need to back up one case. Any board members not visit 291 South Plymouth?
I didn't. Oh, Plymouth.
South Plymouth?
Plymouth, I did. Oxford, I did not.
Okay. Anybody else on South, or anybody not visit South Plymouth? Okay, so everyone visited South Plymouth. And 456 Oxford, Cora did not visit. Anybody else not visit 456 Oxford? Okay, and no questions on that? Pretty straightforward. Similar, but slightly different. Case number 6, 224 Croydon Road. Anybody not visit 224 Croydon Road? All visited, thank you. Any questions on that one? That one also had one, I'm sorry, I should have said no additional comment on 456 Oxford. 224 Croydon did have one additional comment. Any questions on that one?
No, but thank you for providing the larger size plans on this one and the one on Plymouth.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Was that good? Okay, I was hoping that'd be helpful.
That size down at the city, I didn't know.
Yeah, we're trying. No, I figured those ones.
I appreciate it. Hey,
When I scanned in the drawings, it didn't make them as clear. So for some of the ones that had like detailed architectural drawings, that's why I printed the additional.
I didn't know if you were mistakenly hitting the 11 by 17 and the color button. I was like, oh, the Matt's gonna get in trouble if he keeps putting color.
This may be the last time you see me. No. Okay.
That 8-foot fence we approved there on the corner looks pretty sharp too. We approved I think a year ago.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, it looks really sharp.
With the lattice on top.
Yeah, with the lattice on top, they did a great job with that.
Yeah, that was, I think a year or two ago now.
Plus they decorate it for holidays, so it's really nice to drive by it.
Get everyone in the spirit. Okay, awesome. So if there are no other questions, there is no other business for the pre-meeting. Everyone can turn their video off and go on mute. To anybody watching, the public hearing will begin promptly at 6 p.m. And at that point, we will call the first case and work our way through.